All right, everybody. Hello. I thank you all so much for joining us today. We are delighted to present best-selling author and St. Louis native Amy Spalding. Amy is here to discuss her new book, At Her Service. Joining her in conversation today is Left Bank Books' very own Taylor Smith. We're very excited to have her with us today. Some notes before we begin. Tonight's event is only possible because of all of your support. So when you support Left Bank Books, your money goes directly into our local economy. So it helps support your streets and parks and more, but it also helps us to give authors the support that they deserve in running events like this. So thank you all so much for shopping local and joining us for this event. If you are here in person, we're very excited to have you. I will ask you to take a minute, go ahead and silence your cell phone so we can have a uninterrupted conversation today. We would really appreciate that. If you are here virtually, thank you so much for joining us online. Your support is very appreciated as well. You'll be able to participate in the Q&A at the end by leaving your question as a comment on YouTube, so you can be part of the conversation as well. We at Left Bank have a fantastic calendar of events coming up. Note, next week on Thursday, the 29th, we are joined by award-winning author Philip B. Williams, whose new book, Ours, has already been dubbed the most anticipated book of 2024 by Oprah's Book Club, Kirkus Review, and many more. Ours is a mesmerizing epic that reimagines Black history to explore the true nature of freedom and joy. And on March 9th, we are partnering with St. Louis's Very Asian Foundation for a morning of self-reflection and self-healing featuring Shannon Lee and her new book, Be Water, My Friend. A full calendar of our upcoming events can be found on our website, featuring names such as Ada Limon, Diane Seuss, David Finkel, and many more, so there's something for everybody. For tonight's event, again, we are delighted that Amy is here with us today.
Yay, Amy!
Amy is the author of several novels, including best-selling For Her Consideration, We Used to Be Friends, and The Summer of Jordi, Perez, which was named a Best Book of 2018 by NPR, the Boston Globe, Kirkus Reviews, and many more. Very excitingly, she is also the recipient of the 2023 Human Rights Campaign Visibility Award for the authentic, funny, and diverse representation of the LGBTQ+ community in her books, which is very impressive and fantastic. Amy grew up in St. Louis. Hold for applause for that local off of it. Fantastic. And now lives in
local applause.
So this afternoon, Amy will be discussing her new book, At Her Service, which is a sweetly sexy, gloriously relatable sapphic rom-com about self-improvement, chasing your dreams, and writing your own Hollywood love story. At Her Service is a fresh, feel-good, endlessly relatable, and glorious love story for the digital age and beyond. And like I mentioned at the beginning, Amy is in conversation today with our own Taylor Smith. Taylor is a romance genre expert, young adult fiction aficionado, and just a delightful soul. So we're really happy that she'll be here to talk to you all today. She reads several hundred books a year, and that's not an exaggeration. So when she says a book is good, that really means something. So please join me in welcoming Amy and Taylor.
Is this on? No. This button, I think. It's green. Okay, there we go.
How about that? Oh, yeah.
Hi.
That was a surprising amount of mic.
Yeah, I really like speed through. Mine is not doing the same over here, but that's okay. We'll make it work.
I was like, I don't even think I need a mic, but we'll do it. We'll do it for the internet.
Yes, and for any, hearing.
I just want to say when I look at the camera for this, there's a sign that says one taco was never enough, and it's so distracting. I'm like, that's so true.
Oh my gosh, yes, the Dragons Love Tacos franchise. We love that here in the store. So Amy, tell us a little bit about At Her Service.
At Her Service is, as in the intro, oh my God, the cat's here. I'm so sorry. I'm so easily distracted. Of an adult with unmedicated ADHD doing this. It's gonna go how it goes. At Her Service is a rom-com about Max, who, if you read For Consideration, she's a minor character in For Consideration. If you didn't, you can follow this book. You do not need to, look, if you want to get both books, I will never stop you. But like, you will understand it if you haven't read it. She is a Hollywood talent assistant. She knows she could do more. She also knows that she is not really taken seriously. She's young, she's very small, and all she wants to do is like succeed. And she wants to fall in love, and she wants to really make a name for herself in LA and have like a chosen family and all the things she dreamed about when she was going to move to a big city. But she is sort of her own worst enemy in many ways. And she has a crush on this bartender, Sadie, who in the meantime is trying to save her late uncle's sort of historic LGBTQ bar. And, they both sort of see themselves as people who can't do things or that people think are unable to. And so it's a book about being in your 20s and sort of, I don't know, for me, when I was in my 20s, I could like look at my age and see that I was technically an adult, but I was like, I just have an apartment, but like I'm still just a child struggling to pay the rent. Like, how is this adulthood? And so I wanted to write about that time in life and about sort of like moving to a big city and thinking it's going to solve your problems, but you're still you.
Yes, I have moved to multiple big cities, hoping that my problems would go away, and now I'm back home.
They just follow.
Yes,
they just follow.
They do.
So I wanted to write about that, and I wanted to write about, sort of like falling for someone who like actually sees you as you are and vice versa, but sort of again, until you get out of your own way, how that maybe won't quite work out.
That's wonderful. I love this book. I enjoyed it so much. It was so much fun. One of your major themes is about building community. Sadie's looking to build community and self-actualize. And you've moved from St. Louis to LA. How did you find building community in a new space like that?
I mean, thank God for the internet. I do feel like that's where a lot of my friends came from. And I think is it going in and out? It's weird. No. Okay. You can hear me. I mean, we're in the same room. We're fine. I have a loud voice. I was lucky when I first moved there. I had an entertainment industry assistant job as well, a different one than Max, but I was in the same sort of world. And I was lucky, like almost everyone there was a person who had moved from the Midwest to like work in the industry in LA. So like we had a decent amount of things in common and we're sort of like, it was like a default social group. And most of those people I don't really talk to anymore, but they're all lovely. We're still all, of course, like Instagram and Facebook friends. But it was sort of like, it was like a good starting point to like at least have people to like go get meals with and do stuff with and talk about things with until I sort of like had more time to live and like actually find the people who also like wanted to make art and like were interested in like writing and other, things like that. And I feel like once I sort of found those people, that's when it really started of like, these are my people, these are the people, like the kind of people I moved here for to find. But I did go through that same thing as Max of like, well, I'm in the big city now. Clearly, I'm cool. And it's like, no, you're the same person. And also, there's a lot of really cool people here. Like, now you have more people to like measure up against.
Yeah.
So you have to do the work yourself, which was sort of like, a lot of the theme of the book is like, it's not going to be handed to you. A lot of like community comes from forming it, not from like getting absorbed into it magically.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. The theme of like, you have to build community. You aren't going to be like given community.
Yes.
Yeah. I think when we all talk about how making friendships as an adult is really hard, that is not one topic that we always touch on. It's like, you have to put in the work.
Yeah, I think that's so much of it because I actually I was really determined. And so I met a lot of people and I just kind of like pursued friendships with people and it worked out for me. And I'm like, I don't want to say that like to some degree I was just really lucky, but I was also like, but I put a lot of effort into it. Like, so it was like less hard because I was like doing, I mean, maybe too much work, but that's the thing. I was like, you can do the right amount or you can do too much. And that's often where I am.
Either way, it's going to pay off and now you have those deep relationships. So
Exactly.
It's a good time. How does it feel to be writing in one of the most popular genres in literature at a time where a lot of things about queer identity feel like they're under fire?
Yeah, I feel like I have so many answers to that. First of all, to write in one of the most popular genres, I feel like lucky. It's really exciting. When I meet romance readers, they're just like, I always use the word like passionate, and that feels like goofy because of the genre, but romance readers are so passionate. They read so many books. Coming from YA, when you hope you're like the lucky book that person like maybe chooses to read that week or that month. And like for romance readers, they're like, oh, I read your book today. It was like the greatest 3 hours. Anyway, now I'm going to read 3 more books. And I'm like, oh my God, good for you. And so like, there's so much more discovery, I think. And it just feels I feel really fortunate, but it also feels like just like, there's room for a lot of people. There's room for a lot of like different kinds of stories. And I love getting to be part of it. And it's interesting because like a lot of the pushback on queer storytelling is really hitting the YA market and middle grade picture books. And adult to some degree is like, I don't want to say skating by because it's not skating by. Like these books should all exist and it's ridiculous that any of these are getting challenged. But it's interesting to have like YA books that are on, Summer Jordi Perez is on a lot of ban lists, and it's labeled as being sexually explicit, which is literally, there's no sex in that book. It is like a PG-13 book about teens having like a really fluffy summer romance. Like it's very like, there's nothing, the whole point of me writing that book was so it could be just like frothy and joyous and like nothing heavy. And so it's also frustrating because, you know, these books are not even getting banned for what's actually in them. It's just like the fear that someone saw a pride flag on the cover and was like, oh no, this might make a child gay, which it won't, unless they are. And it's just so frustrating because it's like, it's not coming, it's already coming from like hate and fear, but then it's coming from like lies.
Yeah.
And in a lot of districts, all they have to do is challenge the book, and until they do the investigation, the book is pulled.
Right.
And so, you know, I've gotten tagged in these carts of, you know, people see a book, like a cart of books being pulled off, and like, there's my book cover on it, and it's so upsetting. And so I try to remember that of like feeling very like sort of safe and adult, because like a lot, for the most part, these books aren't going, like this book should not be in a school. Right. And so like, if it got challenged, I'd be like, yeah, take it out. It's for adults. And so like, I don't get that criticism here, but I'm like, I don't want to forget that like, it's still happening to my YA books. It's happening to other people's YA books and middle grade books, etc. So it's like, I still want to stay really, and that living in California, I don't want to get so complacent because it's like, people come in from outside areas and try to like influence our districts. And I don't, you know, we don't want to get too lazy about it and be like, we're fine, because it could still happen.
Yeah, in Missouri, we're like the top 3 in the nation for banned books right now.
Oh yeah, I see that all the time.
Yeah.
Like, hometown pride.
But what is giving you hope in those moments?
Well, first of all, I see that so many librarians and booksellers and parents and teachers are fighting back against it. It's not like this is happening and everyone's like, this is fine. You see so many challenges to it. You see so many people who are not willing to back down. And so many, I've really tried to, because it feels really hopeless. And people would be like, what do I do? And I'm like, I don't know. And so knowing that people are trying their best to make these things work and make them work for kids who need to see themselves, and for also just kids who should get to read good books, regardless of identity. I think that's another misnomer, is like the idea of like, well, these books are for kids who need them. It's like, they're also good books. These are not like charity case books, like just for like a sad, like gay kid. You know what I mean? It's like, no, anyone could like this. Please try to keep the books in. And so I feel like there's so many people fighting, and right there, I feel super hopeful. And I also like, I don't know, the books aren't going away. It might be, you might get carted off down the hallway, but they are still at the bookstore, they're still on Amazon, there's still a lot of ways. And, you know, like the Brooklyn, I think it's like, is it the NYPL or the Brooklyn Library? One of them has like the free ebook if you're a teen. You can like get a library card there and read all their ebooks. So like, so many people are working hard to make sure kids still get books. And I feel like as long as those things are happening, I still have hope.
Yeah, that's great. We're doing a lot to combat that here at Left Wing, where we send books to people who request them just by going on to our website about banned books. So I think that like the action fighting back is definitely hope-inducing there.
You know, you can donate that thing, and I do a monthly donation to that because I believe in it so much. So any of you who are wondering how you can help, I think I donate $5 a month. So literally, it's so easy, and you know these books are going to people who need them. So that's my little, see, I don't even make the bookstore do it. I will tell you. And also, that's how someone like me who moved away from Missouri can feel less guilty about, like, I'm not trying to run away from helping. I love that Left Bank has that organization. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I love our foundation. So as the author of this book, which character do you find yourself wishing you could spend more time with?
Oh, that's a great question you were like, you can look at the questions first. I'm like, no, I want to be spontaneous. Now I'm like, I think all the side characters, like I always have fun with side characters because you sort of can like, I don't know, I think, so Max's roommate, Chelsea, is an influencer. And I really wanted to write her as someone like kind of annoying, but also like kind of doing her best, but also is like too much. And first of all, I relate to that. And just being a person who's maybe doing too much all the time. And I kept giving like Chelsea like things I thought like, when someone asked her to do something outdoors, she was like, the only thing I do outdoors is brunch. And I'm like, correct. Like that is me.
I highlighted that. No, I was like, yes, Chelsea, you're there.
And Chelsea's also someone who, you know, she comes off as very confident and like very beautiful and cool. And like through Max's eyes. And when you like think about like what Chelsea's life is, it's like, Max, what is wrong with you? Like, get over it. So it was fun to kind of write a character that you're seeing through the main character's eyes. And I'm sort of like trying to do a little like, hey, everyone look beyond your own POV a little.
Yeah.
But I think her and Ava are really fun. And like one thing I like to write in romances when you're like got these like two dummies who can't figure out they love each other is to like have like a functional couple beside them to be like, see, it's not actually that hard. These people are still goofs and they figured it out. You guys can figure it out.
Yeah, I love, like, one of the main themes I feel like in the book is no one is perceiving themselves rightly.
Yes.
Like, everyone is not perceiving themselves how they're being perceived by everyone else. And I think that there's something there for sure.
Yeah, I think it's so real. I think like, I don't know, I remember one time there was this, God, a million years ago, my first job in LA, but this woman who was always like rude in front of me. And I was like, what is her deal? And someone's like, well, she finds you really intimidating. And I was like, what about me is intimidating? I'm like a goober who's just like barely got it together. So it was like one of those first things of like, oh, I don't think any of us know what anyone else is thinking. That's maybe, I can't always hang on to that, but sometimes I can stop and remember it. And also like the nice thing about writing a book about your 20s when you're not in your 20s anymore is I can like at least have some gained wisdom perhaps.
Yeah, definite perspective as someone who is in their late 20s. I'm like, oh, no one is thinking about me as much as I am.
So true. It's so true. And it's weirdly egotistical to be like, everyone's thinking about me and how terrible I am all the time. It's like, why would anyone be just so weird?
No one's doing that, yeah. Is there anything that Sadie did in this book that surprised you?
Yeah, I think when I started writing this, I think what often happens, because, you know, some romance authors write like the two POV when you get like both like love interest points of view. And I don't, I write from one main character, at least for now. Maybe I'll do it someday for all the people complaining on Goodreads. Maybe I'll do it someday. It's just not now. I like how I do it. And I like how other people do it too. Everyone's making great choices. Why did I start talking to the internet in the middle of this? You are all here and lovely. But I think I often start out seeing the love interest the way my main character does. And so I was like, she's hot, she's cool, she's like no nonsense, and like she's off the grid. And it was like, she's not. Like she's also like in many ways more of a disaster than Max.
Yeah.
But she just has like, you know, she doesn't have like a nervous persona, which I love to not have a nervous persona. So
I can't imagine it.
I don't know what it's like. And I think, you know what, one thing that happened was, I don't know if anyone also loved the sitcom, The New Girl,
Oh, yeah.
but I was watching and I was like, Nick Miller is so hot, but he's a disaster of a man. He keeps all his cash in a cardboard box. And I was like, wait, what if Sadie was a little bit of a disaster? Like girls should get to be disasters and hot too.
Absolutely.
And so I was like, you know, I don't think her cash is in a box, but it could be also. Because, you know, she's like, oh, they laughed me out of the bank. And I was like, oh my God, it's your cash in a box. So like, I think sometimes one of the, like for me, a fun thing about writing is that there's a lot of sort of archetypes that like men get to be of like a little, like they fall apart in certain ways and get to be like a disaster in certain ways and still be like really like desirable. And I like turning that around and being like, this girl is falling apart. And she just seems like the strong, sexy, like, oh, how can I get someone like her? Like, it's fun. I don't know, I mean, it's really fun. And again, it's perception too.
No, I absolutely love that, like, Sadie is soft. You know,
Yeah.
she has this, like, hard persona, and you see her behind the bar, and to the Nick Miller, and he's like, oh, I like a bar between 6 foot between me and everyone I encounter, you know? And so I really enjoy that. Is there something that Max did that really surprised you?
I think one thing I learned as I was writing was that I didn't actually want to write her to be like she actually thinks she can achieve. Her concern is that everyone else sees her as someone who can't. And she's so hung up in that. But I liked writing a character who actually really, she believed in herself and she knew she was capable of great things. She was sort of like waiting for her chance. I mean, I feel like her big lesson is like, you can't wait for your chance. You have to like create the chance. You have to take the step forward and like, I mean, these are things you could all stand to learn. It's not like, oh, so we're all good now, right? Like this is one character who doesn't know. You can give yourself your own chances. But it was fun writing someone who was like, no, she does believe in herself. She could believe in herself in a better, more productive way. That's less about like, well, I believe in myself, but no one else does, so never mind. But you know, it was fun to write someone who did think she had, you know, potential. And also my editor pointed this out, which I hadn't thought about, but that Max was really like, I want to fall in love, but I want to, you know, I want to have this great romance. Because so often in romance novels, they're like, I don't need this. And the whole journey is like breaking that down and how can like they realize that they actually do love this person. Max is like, I do, someone noticed me. It's like, everyone's noticing you, pay attention.
Yeah, Max could not tell when someone's hitting on her.
No, it happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Max, everyone finish your thought and wants to date you. And she's like, I'm just a little short pad over here. But I love her. I love her so much.
Yeah, it was fun to write someone. There's a level of cluelessness that I find really entertaining to write.
Yeah, it's great. Oh my god, something came in my head.
I also will say it's really relatable. How many times have you watched your friends get hit on where you're like, and they're like, no, that was just a conversation. And I'm like, a conversation about how hot they think you are. Like, what are you doing? So
most Fridays, I would say. Another major aspect of the book is the U.0. So I would want to ask you, if you were doing U.0, what are some of the goals that you would have on there?
Oh my gosh. So in the book, Max feels like, she wants all these things. She doesn't know how to get them. Chelsea is going to do an influencer campaign with this self-improvement app called U.0, which is You But Better. The author Morgan Matson came up with the name U.0. She's so, if there's a cool fake name in my book, someone else came. That's the one thing I'm really bad at. So if you're like clever, no offense to myself, I didn't come up with it. You can tell in the acknowledgements, there's always a list of people who named things because I'm like, so the app will be like, today, go out and be bold, or try to make a connection, or say yes more. Super generic advice, but Max is hanging on to this app. So yeah, I think mine would be like less negative self-talk. That's a big one for me. I think it would be slow down. I think it'd be don't schedule something every night of the week where you start wanting to cry from fun things.
Yeah, well, taking a break is something that I definitely have had to learn. You need to put on my calendar no plans as the plan of the night.
Yeah, because if something's on the calendar, I won't schedule it there. So I do need, I need U.0 to be put it on your calendar. It's very hard for me.
No, it's definitely hard. What was that? How does it feel to be, I said that one. I'm so sorry. The cat's come here, kitty. Yes, our books were cat orleans making an appearance. Well, what advice would you give to young queer romance authors just entering the genre?
I really think that it used to feel so hard to there would be one book a season and it would be that book. And now it's there's so many. So I really think it's just telling, not worrying about is this a story people want to hear? And instead just focusing is that the story you want to tell? Because I really do think books find audiences. And I feel I always hate to say being genuine and authenticity because it's what even is that? Even that feels like a bit of a persona or whatever. But I think telling the story you want to tell without concern about is that what the market expects or is that something else? It's there's so much room for so many voices right now. So I think it's really great that you can just I just want everyone to get to tell the story they want to tell.
I love there's plenty of room for people.
Yes, and because I also think it's again in romance there really is the readers are reading so many. It's awesome. And also I want other books to be out there. It's no one wants to be the thing that really inspired me was when Meryl Wilsner's Something to Talk About was announced and I saw the cover and I was like, wait, are we just doing books like this with ladies? I could do because I'd only written YA at that point. And so it was it really I needed to see something to be oh, I could do that too. I didn't realize I could do that too.
Yeah, I think that, and I love that you're putting those books out there. So Max will went, oh, we can do that too.
Yeah, and that's the hope. So I'm just keep doing it, everyone. Don't worry about, I don't know, so many times when people want writing advice, they're what's marketable? And what is the, what do editors want right now? I'm I don't know. Sometimes they don't know. Just write the thing that's good to you.
Yeah. So we've met Nita and Ari.
Yes.
And for her consideration. And we got a little more with them this book, which was great.
Little cameos.
Loved stepping into their life. I love little cameos. It's why I love romance, interconnected books so much.
No, I read, I phrased this really poorly at my event the other night, and I accidentally implied that Jasmine Guillory is dead. She's not. She's super alive. Jasmine Guillory, hi. Because I kept referring, it was a thing I'd done in past tense, so I was referring to her in past tense, and I was no, she's alive. But in her books, when I read The Wedding Date and then The Proposal, and she has these characters come back and pop up, and then a side character was love interest, and the love interest friend, and now they're the love interest. And I loved that. And I love sort of getting different views of people through different people's POVs. And I love seeing the main characters again in a supporting role. And so I really was ooh, I hope someone buys more books so I can do that. So I'm really excited that I get to do that now. It felt it just like scratches a fun itch that I didn't quite know I had. Because people have asked for like sequels to other books I've written. I'm like, but you have to, like, you don't want a sequel to Summer Jordi Perez. What happens? They break up and then they have to get, like, it has to be sad if you do a sequel to a romance. But in a series, they get to be happy in the corner while someone else is in front.
Yeah, they get to have their happily ever after while everyone else is figuring their stuff out.
Exactly. So I felt really lucky to get to do that. And I will, like, I haven't like announced what the books are, but I have announced that there's 2 more books in the series. So it'll be 4
Right.
altogether.
I was wondering about that
Yeah.
because I have one character that I really love and would love to see.
So here's the problem. It's not. And everyone loves Paige. And so I'm like, does there have to be a 5th book? There might, because everyone loves Paige so much. And I set her up like she's gonna, but I had to actually, Paige was in more of the book and it made it seem like I was really like priming her. And I was like, she's not in the, like, so then I had to like delete. So I really think at some point, because so many people have mentioned Paige, I'm like, I'm so sorry I made her so lovable, everyone.
Not to spoil, but for those of you who haven't read it, Paige shows up in a way where Max kind of makes a fool of herself pretty early on in the book, and then we get to run into her again, where she's really gracious and kind. So she's just like a fun character.
Yeah, I really like her. And I also, I will say writing the scene where she like Max makes just like an absolute fool out of herself
Absolutely.
was one of the most like painful / really fun things to do. Because I don't torture my own characters a lot. I feel like all those memes that are like me like torturing, I'm like, no, I just want to gently like, it's almost hard to give the book's plot. Because I just want to be like, and then a nice thing happened, and then several more nice things happened, and then even more nice things happened, and then the book ended, which is not satisfying actually to read.
Well, I will say you built the tension in this book very, very well, because when it all comes to a head, the climax, you're like, oh no, I saw this coming, but it's happening, and it's worse, but also better than I expected it was going to be.
I think this is, one of my friends was like, this book is the meanest you've ever been to anyone, and I'm like, I'm so proud of myself, because I'm not good at it. I'm like a gentle, like, caress to the face. What a creepy thing to say, I'm so sorry.
Just gentle parenting your characters.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, I'm like, no, y'all are going through it.
And they did, and I felt that. I cried a little bit, it's fine. So you've written young adult books and also adult romance books. Is one more enjoyable than the other? And does the genre affect your process as a writer?
I don't think the genre affects my process. I think adult is easier because in YA, first of all, you have to know what everyone's parents do, and that's so. I like made a list of what everyone's parents' jobs were once, and then I was like, I don't know what anyone does. Like, how many jobs are there? I'm like, you're the age of the parents. Why is this hard? What do your friends do? Maybe it's because I live in LA and I'm like writer, industry, like freelance, like I don't know. Maybe I'm just like have the wrong. But I have so many friends who have different jobs, and yet when I'm like, what does this person's parent do? They're a teacher, a lawyer, financial. I don't know what that means. Like it's just it's so complicated for me for some reason. And then also you have to know what their class schedules are and like when they see people at different times. And I kept accidentally setting books senior year of high school, so then I had to learn like when the college like application process was and what it was. And that is, I know it sounds like just logistics, but they're logistics. And the fun part of writing is not writing down when people need to be certain. Like if I wanted to have a complicated schedule, I would have one myself.
Right.
So I just want to write about like shenanigans and like jokes and like kissing. And now I'm like, what time of the year do you have to make sure your SAT scores are finalized so you can, it's like so boring. So an adult, it's just like, I don't know it doesn't matter what anyone's parents do. They're not in the book. No offense to parents. And it doesn't matter what, like you just need your character's job. That's it. And there's just like a lot of things you don't have to worry about. So I find it easier. I really do feel a tremendous amount of responsibility as a young adult author. Not that I think all books have to like teach a lesson or be like moral in a certain way, but I do care about like, you know, especially with LGBTQ representation of like really doing, you know, kind representation and not making maybe jokes about things that you can as an adult because like people's identities are firmer and like, or less firm, but like you're more confident about it. You sort of know who you are, or you're finding out in a fun way versus I think sometimes when you're a kid, if this is the first time maybe you've like come across something in a text, you kind of want it to like make room for you. And maybe not like make jokes about stereotypes because if you don't fit them or you do, they feel like that maybe feels like harmful instead of like welcoming. And so like every passage in a book, I'm like, oh, is this mean? Is this being interpreted wrong? I just want to make sure I'm really kind. And And it's nice and adult to just be like, I can make jokes, and you guys know I'm like, we're all on the same page, right? Great. And so like there is a level of sort of like openness that I like, but yeah, I mean, young adult is also just really special. And like writing things that connect with like teen readers feel like teens are so much of a harder audience than adults too. So I'm like, oh my God, you made a teen like your book? Like you are the coolest ever.
Yeah, teens are hard to connect with. They're great. We love them. Love their hearts. And what is your writing process? What does that look like?
Every time I feel like I know what it is, it like changes for the next book. But in general, for like a rom-com, it's kind of, the nice thing is, you know they're gonna get together. So you're like, I know where I'm building to. I know that you have like, you know, your meet cute, or like they already know each other, but you're gonna set up for them to run across each other in a fun way. And spoiler alert for this book, I wrote it, and then it was so, when I thought about it, it was so ridiculous that I started to delete it. And someone, I'll just say it involves spilling cheese on queso on somebody else's butt. And then I was like, is that ridiculous? And everyone's like, yes, please do not delete cheese on someone's butt. And so I'll sort of like think about what I want to write, think about the characters, and do sort of like a broad strokes outline of just like, where am I going to? And try to fill in as much as I kind of know going into it. And then I start writing a little, and then like the more I know the characters, the outline kind of changes, because it's like, oh, she would never do this. This is different than I thought, things like that. And so, and I kind of just keep bouncing back and forth until I sort of know the story better. Sometimes it happens for her consideration so quickly, it was starting to come together. I think because I'd like been thinking about it for a bit, and also it was lockdown and there was nothing else to think about that wasn't horrible. And so my brain was just like, great story, that's what we got time for. And like this took longer because, you know, I was going out into the world again and actually had things on my mind besides distracting myself from a global pandemic via writing a rom-com. So yeah, so that's sort of where, I feel like that's sort of where it's landed. It's sort of how like book 3 got written, and I'm like gearing up to start book 4 now, and like how it feels like it's going. And sorry, it's still not about Paige, even if you look at me with disappointment.
I'll just write letters to the editor, dreams and hopes.
Yeah, well it is, the more I hear, the more, because everyone's like, are you done with it after 4 books? And I'm like, yes. And like ever since I've been talking to people since the book came out literally this week, I'm like, I mean, maybe it's just like one more book.
Yeah, maybe just a little page Christmas novella, who knows?
Yeah, that could be good. Yeah, great. Ideas are ready.
Listen, my hands are open if you ever it's for page. Do you have a fan cast for Sadie and Max of who you saw in your head when you were writing them?
I often don't. I think partially because I feel like, I mean, first of all, people want to make it great. I'm so open to so many ideas, great. But I think often in my head, you know, the sort of women who are the main characters of my books and the girls who are the main characters of my YA novels are often not like the people who are actors or famous. Because like, you know, people really wanted ideas when I was like touring with for consideration. And I'm like, Nina's like this super cool, like hot fat lady who's like really glamorous. But I'm like, like Hollywood is not recognizing that kind of cool lady. So we don't have a lot of them to choose from.
Yeah.
So like I don't have a person I can name, you know?
No, that's totally fair. I pictured Maisie Williams, Arya Stark. Max.
Oh yeah, that totally works.
Right?
Yeah, that totally works.
I
can feel, I know this person is non-binary and not a lady, but I'm like a little Mae Martin could work for Max too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How did you get started in the writing profession? When did you start to like decide I want to be a writer? How did that begin for you?
Oh, I was like my mom knows, she's here in front row. She's like nervously smiling that I didn't might look at her now, sorry. Like when I was a very little kid, as soon as I figured out like people wrote the books I was reading, I was like, great, so that's me. Check that off the list. I know what I want to be. Like it was like that was like that simple for me. I mean, it was not actually that simple to then like actually have it happen. But yeah, I always wanted to be a writer, which is like one thing I feel really fortunate that I am, because I'm like, oh, how many people have like their childhood dream like come true? But also a lot of childhood dreams you don't want to come true. I also was like, I will be a dog trainer, and I don't think I'd be good at that.
Fair enough.
I taught my dog one trick.
What was the trick?
Down. It's not fancy. Like you were like, oh, like does she do your taxes? No, she goes from sitting to laying. How useful is it? Rarely. Why do you need that? I don't know.
That's great. What authors are inspiring you right now?
I feel like It's so funny. I actually just, I had coffee with a friend not long before this, and we were talking about 2 books we love that are not, the problem is I'm always like, what are these great books? They have nothing to do with romance. But I was talking about Stature, which is a memoir, I can't remember the last name, Sue something, it's about a man who is like my exact age, which I just, for some reason, anytime someone's born in 1977, I'm like, we have so much in common, which is, there's so many people born in 1977 that don't all have things in common, but it is like the best. There's so much encapsulation of what it feels to like be a certain kind of Gen X person. It's actually about the murder of one of his college friends and his grief and sort of like taking apart their friendship and like coming to terms with a lot of different things. But it was like one of those books that like resonated every time I thought, like it just had so many things that I'm like, I feel exactly like that. I feel exactly like that. And that's like such a wonderful feeling in a memoir to like just like see yourself. And the book Monsters by Claire Dedeter. I don't know how to say it. It's like Dededer. There's a lot of D's and R's in it. I'm so sorry, ma'am, if you're, why would you be watching this? But, and it's about the art of people who have sort of have been found to be monsters in real life and what we do with that. And can we still consume it? And also what does it mean to be like a woman monster versus like the men who are monsters? I love these books so much. These are not romances. If you're here for that, don't read them. I'm really excited about Anita like queer basketball romance.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. It looks so good. Alison Cochran's book, I think, comes out next month or so. It looks great. Those are 2
That's a
romances.
queer road trip romance.
Yeah. And those are also just like, those are 2 authors who have been like so welcoming to me. They both wrote this book. And so like, I just feel fortunate to be in their worlds. And, you know, I love when you're stressed about like writing and putting a book out and you're like, I have fun books to look forward to like read when this is over. So like those are 2 sort of my favorite pile.
No, definitely. I love those 2. I love reading their books as well. As it is Black History Month, are there any Black authors that you're loving right now?
I mean, I mentioned Jasmine Guillory, who is alive.
Who is alive?
Oh my gosh, you put me in. I should have looked at these questions first. I would have thought of someone.
Opportunity was for them.
I was. I'm so sorry. I need to look at my Goodreads. I'm so sorry. I don't have a Black author handy, but I said that's fine. You know whose book I saw on sale on ebook earlier, who I love. I don't know this person either. Talia Hibbert, the Brown Sisters trilogy. If you love rom-coms, these books are so funny, so sexy, and the main characters are all disasters. They make my characters look really like they've got their shit together. And that last book, like At Your Age, Eve Brown, that is a girl who's got so many issues, and she is loved anyway. And I loved it because, like, I think if you feel a little disastrous yourself, it's so nice to read a book where you're like, oh no, girl, get it, come on.
I see myself a lot in Danny Brown, which her wall's so high, you know, but definitely a disaster. And when she finds someone to love her, I'm like, oh, that's nice.
It's nice. Yeah, in Chloe Brown, I think it's the first book, there's like a scene where she like hides in a tree with a cat. I'm like, I relate to that deeply. I love cats. I like to avoid awkward. I will make a situation worse by feasibly trying to be like, I'm gonna avoid the awkward part. And then I awkward it more by the avoiding awkwardness.
Yeah, I make situations more awkward. I'd be like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So we talked earlier about you are Sophie, I'm a Sophie, so
It's true.
I can't not talk about it. I'm sorry, it's in the contract.
I brought the bag, so she saw. I couldn't hide it.
What songs would you put in this book that are?
Oh yeah, I have. What are the ones on my playlist? See here, what I'm actually. This I am gonna get my phone out.
Playlist.
Wait, where's my
Playlist.
Oh, it's here. I'm like, where's my phone? It's in my hand. Yeah, there's an outer service playlist. I need to like. Oh my god, I just started playing a Mary Timony song. It's the most Gen X goof you could have. So what a goof I am. Okay, here's what's on it. Cruel Summer.
Perfect.
Delicate, New Year's Day. I think that's all that's on there. Those are 3 that are really good for this though.
Yeah, those are perfect. Absolutely.
This playlist is mainly Tegan and Sarah and Muna.
As it should be.
Muna? I don't know how to say it.
Muna. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, those are good. But I also I listen to Taylor Swift so much. Taylor Swift is informing so many of the things I write, regardless of novel, regardless of era. It's just happening. Because the way she gets into her petty feelings is how I feel. All the, like people like, oh, she can be really petty about things. I'm like, I know that is a feature, not a bug. Like, I'm like, I'm sorry if you like. I can't help that I'm also a petty white woman who just like sometimes wants to take apart her feelings and like dwell on a situation that happened 10 years ago for too long.
Yeah, no, and I mean, who among us isn't thinking about stuff that happened 10 years ago occasionally?
Yeah, it's true. So like, I don't know. I feel really seen by her sometimes, often.
Absolutely right. I want to open up for any audience Q&A. If there's anything else you want to add before we open up.
I don't think so. I'm really happy. Like, it's so nice to see a crowd here. I love being back in my hometown. It means a lot to me, all of that. I have an insincere, sarcastic voice, but I do have real feelings. And I do need it. And I really, like, this bookstore is really special to me because this is like a place I shopped in high school. And so to like get to come back here and do events now, like it really means a lot to me. So thank you all for being here.
And we love having you.
Thank you.
Come back with us.
I'm also going to scroll my recent reads and see if I have anything cool to tell you.
Okay.
Sort of like depressing books about like murder and people who've been canceled.
All right, does anyone have any questions?
Want me to do a mic?
Yeah.
All right. Like for the internet people.
All around.
So this is your second book novel you've published for adults.
Yes.
And my question is how it was different. Different any difference in the experience of writing and publishing your second versus your first one?
It was so different because, again, the first one was during lockdown and I didn't know if it was going to get published. So I felt like really free and I was just like doing things. And it was like, I'm secretly writing a novel and no one knows. And I mean, who knows anyway? It's a Word document. Like, it's not like beeping out to the masses. But I felt like it just felt really special to do it, like, with no one else knowing what I was doing. And so, like, then I got a 2-book deal, which is amazing. It was the first time it happened. I felt very special. But then I was like, well, I have to write it, and they don't even know what they're getting. They just said a novel, and like, what if they don't like this one? What if it's not good? And I had like and then also, of course, like, you're not supposed to go on Goodreads, but I do sometimes. And then I'm like, they hate this. Or they'd be like, I love this, I hope there's more of it. I'm like, there's none of it in this book, you're gonna hate it. And so, like, the external pressure wasn't real, but I made it real in my brain, which is the thing I'm really good at. That's another thing that you point out made me tell me to stop doing. And it made it harder, but I also think that's just writing. Like, it was so fun to write before I had a book deal because, like, I hoped I would get one, but also, like, it's really freeing. No one's telling you, like this, or, stop writing, which no one ever says stop writing. Probably someone does, but I haven't seen that. But there is a freedom in it that, like, once it's like a thing you do for money and a thing you do want to make your editor happy. You want to, like, hopefully give readers something they really love. Like, the pressure I will put on myself is too much. Will I learn from this? No.
Any other questions? And for our online audience as well, I'm keeping an eye on the comments, so they're typing probably as we speak.
It doesn't have to be a cool question. I knew Brandon was going to raise his hand. He had like a gleam in his eyes.
didn't?
Not related to the book, but do you see any tells out in LA for people that are obviously from the Midwest?
That's a great question.
Oh, that is a good question. I feel like it's like I'll wear like a St. Louis t-shirt and a lot of people are like, oh, hey, you got a connection with St. Louis? Is there a reason you're wearing that? And I'm like, I'm from there. And they're like, great, so am I, let's talk about it. They get like really excited. Or I was talking to someone once and we were talking about like Shake Shack being good. And they're like, well, they got those ideas from Steak and Shake. And I was like, are you from the Midwest? And they're like, yes, are you from the Midwest? And we're like, let's talk about Steak and Shake and how we like the cheese sauce on the fries. Like, again, I feel like a lot of things are food centric for me. So I do feel like there's a lot of like, if you have the t-shirt of like your college or somewhere, like people are really excited. But no, I feel like one of the things you do is like you move to LA and you're like, I don't want anyone to know where I'm from. I'm just like, I just live here now. And then it will say my vowels get really flat when I'm talking and people are like, oh, I hear Missouri in your voice. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. So yes, it also slips out that way.
So it's kind of going off that, do you think, since these are kind of based in LA, do you think you'd ever write a small town romance in Missouri, St. Louis area?
I would love to do something like that, but I haven't lived here in almost 20 years, and I feel like one thing that really matters to me about writing LA books the way I do is like they're very set in like the actual LA and not like the idea of LA. So if I did that, I'd want to like feel like I was doing that, but I feel like I also have a lot of friends here who'd be like, we get you through it. We could like, it's possible. I also come back here like twice a year, so I'm like, so I feel like now I'm like, no, but like, also at a certain point I'm gonna be like, I've written a lot of LA books, I need to do something else. So maybe someday.
Any other questions?
All right, well, we can go ahead and move to signing and get some books in people's hands. Let's thank both Amy and Taylor for being with us. And thank you for all of you. If you don't have your book yet, we've got some at the counter. We also have some of Amy's previous books as well. And then, yeah, we'll get everything signed. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you coming.